On this Wednesday night, cracking down on digital harms and addiction. Ottawa's new legislation aimed at protecting young Canadians from social media and AI chatbots.
We're failing our children. Enough is enough.
Manitoba's miserable mess. The downpour and the damage. Northern Ireland's intensifying unrest.
I'm afraid maybe I might be the next to be attacked.
The brutal assault fueling violence and hate against immigrants. Plus, a world-class ripoff.
The people that are paying for it in their taxes cannot afford to attend.
The ugly side of the beautiful game.
Global National with Donna Friesen.
Good evening and thanks for joining us. New legislation that attempts to regulate who can access social media in Canada has been introduced in Parliament. The Safe Social Media Act is intended to protect children under the age of 16 from the dark and addictive side of the online world. Canada is one of many countries trying to keep pace with the digital era, making tech companies more accountable for their platforms, which are deliberately designed to be addictive and too often expose children to harmful content. David Aiken has our top story tonight.
We're failing our children. Enough is enough.
At the center of the federal government's plan to protect children is a ban on social media for anyone under 16.
The act will require social media platforms and AI chatbot services to do more to protect children and make their platforms safe by design.
Social media platforms can get an exemption if they can prove they have built-in sufficient safeguards, and they'll have to prove that to a new independent regulator, a to-be-created Digital Safety Commission of Canada. But how does a platform identify who is under 16 and who is not? Well, that is TBD. It will be up to each platform to figure out how to do that while protecting privacy and meeting data retention rules. The age ban does not apply to AI chatbots, but chatbot operators, along with those social media platforms, will have to file an approved digital safety plan with that new commission. Platforms could face court orders or millions of dollars in fines for violating this act, and it would be that Digital Safety Commission that would enforce the rules. It could be a year or two before all of this is in place.
The measures in this bill represent, in my view, the basic expectation that parents and Canadians for keeping their kids safe online.
Are making a difference.
But will it all work? Well, Australia led the way with a ban on social media for the under 16 set, but it has been seen as less than effective. And privacy experts in Canada have already been sounding the alarm about giving social media platforms personal information for age verification.
And then there's the White House. The Trump administration has already signaled that attempts to curb big tech platforms, most of which are based in the U.S., will be seen as an attack on U.S. commerce. And if the White House feels that way about Canada's proposed social media restrictions, that could further complicate discussions around the renewal of the broader Canada-U.S.-Mexico free trade agreement. Donna.
Okay, good point, David Aiken in Ottawa. Thank you. The Kremlin is lashing out at Canada. Russia's foreign minister is accusing the country of being a warmonger, claiming an agreement between a Canadian and a Ukrainian company to make drones for Ukraine's armed forces amounts to a significant escalation of Canada's involvement in Russia's war on Ukraine. Mackenzie Gray reports on Russia's threat and the reaction.
Canada позиционирует себя.
In a nearly 3-hour airing of grievances by the Russian Foreign Ministry, Canada was called out for Canadian-made drones potentially being used against Russia, saying that would be a significant escalation, labeling Canada as a warmonger whose drones would be used in terrorist attacks on children, civilians, schools and hospitals. Targets the Russians have frequently hit in Ukraine, including this maternity ward in Vilyansk. The Russians leveled similar threats against many other countries, saying they reserve the right to respond, including by posting the address of the Canadian companies involved in making the drones for Ukraine.
We would expect to see the Russians to be critical because they don't appreciate the fact that NATO is coming together to assist a country that's in need.
The federal government will buy the drones, then donate them to the Ukrainian military to help them with a war that's lasted for over 4 years. 1,568 days to be exact, Donna, now matching the entire length of the First World War.
Okay, Mackenzie Gray in Ottawa, thank you. People in Manitoba are mopping up after a fierce storm system swept through last night. It unleashed heavy winds, hail, strong winds, and at least one tornado. It only added to the misery of people in the Swan River area, where heavy rain earlier this week triggered catastrophic flooding. We'll take you there in just a moment, but first, Melissa Ridgen reports from Winnipeg on the wild weather there.
Get into an immediate basement, into the lowest level of your house, away from windows or doors if you're in this area.
That was the warning to much of southern Manitoba starting Tuesday afternoon. It continued for 12 solid hours.
We had this area of low pressure that kind of was coupled with an upper trough, and basically it was ripe ingredients for a full afternoon and evening of strong, severe thunderstorms. Some of them were rotating, and that resulted in numerous tornado warnings, heavy rain because of the wave after wave of thunderstorms that we saw across the area, as well as large hail, strong wind gusts, and a ton of lightning.
Environment Canada says at least one tornado touched down near St. Anne, just outside Winnipeg. Multiple others across the province are being investigated. In Winnipeg, streets flooded and the city's stormwater system struggled, while thousands are still without power Wednesday. The bedroom community of Stonewall, northwest of Winnipeg, took the brunt of the rainfall, 255 millimeters. This was their Wednesday.
Torrential downpour. I checked at about 10 before I went to bed and everything seemed okay. Then 6:30 woke up and basement's flooded, water up to my hip, so and a lake.
Southeastern Saskatchewan was hammered by storms as well. This tornado near the town of Oxbow stayed on the ground for 20 minutes Tuesday. While storm chasers delighted, many of the storm affected complained of 12 straight hours of alerts like this. Premier Wab Kinew, meanwhile, toured another part of the province that had been battered earlier in the week by what's been described as a once-in-200-year storm. Melissa Ridgen, Global News, Winnipeg.
I'm Vicioios Bellos in Swan River, Manitoba, where many are still cleaning up after the devastating floods that happened over the weekend. Behind me is where the provincial government approved a cut in the highway to alleviate some of the flood stress. Now, some say it is working so far, but local elected officials believe this is an action the province should have taken sooner.
We wasted hours waiting for the province to say we could cut it.
Swan River West Reeve Bill Gale says they were calling for approval from Manitoba to cut the highway on Monday, and fear waiting to do the job until the next day caused unnecessary flooding damage.
It would be nice to see a little more support from them. It's hard from Winnipeg to be able to say, hey, here's what we're going to do and come and save it. We don't want them out here running our problem. We just want the help when we need it.
They're okay.
On Wednesday, Premier Wab Kinew visited the Swan Valley region to take in the devastation firsthand. He says they moved quickly to approve cutting the highway and that the community has had and will continue to have their support.
Working with the municipalities, we'll activate the Disaster Financial Assistance Program, and then hopefully Manitoba homeowners in this region and businesses will be able to get the help that they need. But if not, then that's where we step in.
Frustration about the province's response felt by Swan River resident MJ Domanowski, who says sandbagging was done by neighbors. He's surprised the province didn't play a role as well, considering how serious the flooding immediately was by the weekend.
But those are the people that I would have expected to step to the forefront and really bring the questions and ask, really, where are you in this time? But that wasn't the case.
Premier Wab Kinew went on to say with overland flooding not covered by insurance, the province understands many will need their assistance. Vicioios Bellos, Global News, Swan River.
The Bank of Canada is holding its key lending rate at 2.25% for the fifth time in a row. Bank Governor Tiff Macklem says he doesn't think Canada is in a recession, but he does acknowledge some weakness and unusual uncertainty in the world economy.
Economic weakness combined with rising inflation is a dilemma for monetary policy.
He warns multiple rate hikes may be necessary if the war the U.S. launched against Iran keeps energy prices high and fuels overall inflation. But he also says rate cuts could be on the table if the U.S. imposes significant new trade restrictions on Canada. Well, today, the U.S. president ramped up his rhetoric on trade. Donald Trump claims he is not looking to renew the Canada-Mexico-U.S. free trade deal known as CUSMA.
I don't know that I'm going to renew it because, to be honest with you, the United States does much better. Hey, we don't need anything that Canada has. We don't need anything that Mexico has, but they need everything that we have.
Ontario's Premier Doug Ford today signed a memorandum of understanding with Pennsylvania's governor to try to strengthen their economies.
I know that many Canadians, to many of them, the United States does not feel very welcoming right now. I get that, given the reckless and disrespectful rhetoric coming from our president. The tariffs that the Trump administration has put in place are a real threat to both of our economies.
Ontario-Pennsylvania trade was valued at $20.5 billion last year. Ontario is Pennsylvania's top export customer. On Parliament Hill today, there was a rally against a proposed high-speed rail line linking Toronto, Ottawa, Montreal, and Quebec City. The project is expected to break ground in 2029 and cost between $60 to $90 billion. Many rural people along the proposed route say they're concerned about the impact on their communities and the expropriation powers the federal government has granted to Alto, the Crown Corporation behind the project. Several political parties are also opposed to it, including the Federal Conservatives, the Bloc Québécois, and Quebec's Parti Québécois. In Northern Ireland, tensions are escalating again, despite calls for calm after a vicious stabbing attack. In Belfast tonight, police are using water cannon to disperse protesters that are throwing bricks. It is the second night of violent anti-immigration riots. The protests broke out after police arrested a Sudanese man who was accused of a violent knife attack. Masked mobs set fire to cars and homes, forcing residents to flee as the violence spread. Redmond Shannon is in Belfast tonight. Redmond.
Donna, for a second night in a row, unrest here in Belfast and in other parts of Northern Ireland. Right now, police behind me are pushing back protesters who they believe are trying to get to a hotel housing migrants. The dreadful reality hits after a night of rage that one politician called a race-based pogrom.
We stand there and watch our property getting burnt out. I'll never go over that feeling.
Jamie Corey is one of many residents of this working class part of Belfast caught up in the violence, essentially burnt out of their homes after groups of young men went door to door, primarily looking for immigrants. The scenes here Tuesday night were reminiscent of similar events in Belfast in 1969 at the start of the 3-decade-long civil conflict. But this time, the forced expulsions were motivated by race and not religion.
I'm afraid maybe I might be the next to be attacked on the street. So I don't know where to take my family, my children, who is 9 years old.
Many were too afraid to speak on camera. Some locals did say they felt they were not being listened to on the issue of immigration, even before the knife attack on Monday night that triggered the violence.
If there's discussions to be had around immigration, that's all well and fine, but that needs to be had as a separate way. What we're talking about today is criminality on our streets.
A Sudanese refugee charged with attempted murder in Monday's attack appeared in court Wednesday. The victim, Stephen Ogilvie, is still in hospital. He has lost his left eye and has injuries to his neck. His family appealed for calm, saying the unrest is not welcome. We have many migrants who make a deeply valuable contribution to our country. It remains to be seen whether those who claim to be rioting on behalf of the victim are listening. This has affected more than just that victim and the people who lost their homes. Businesses, schools and stores in Belfast closed today, making it something of a ghost town. Donna?
Okay, Redmond Shannon in Belfast, Northern Ireland, thank you. Stalemate in the Middle East war coming up, how neither side is budging and the vows to continue the attacks. The war the U.S. launched against Iran is having an increasing impact on the cost of living in the U.S. U.S. inflation rose to 4.2% in May, the highest it's been in 3 years, and the spike is largely due to higher gas and energy prices. There is no resolution to the war. Tonight, the U.S. Central Command says it's launched new strikes on Iran after the U.S. president said he would hit the country hard. Jackson Prosco reports.
We were really close to a deal, but they keep tapping us along. They keep playing us for suckers.
After weeks of promising an imminent peace deal with Iran, President Donald Trump has changed course and now vows to keep striking.
We hit them hard yesterday, and we're going to hit them again hard today, in case you miss it, in case you don't turn on your television set. And we'll see what happens with the deal.
A shaky détente fell apart after Iran struck an American Apache helicopter in the Strait of Hormuz. The pilots were rescued by a U.S. Navy drone ship. Soon after, Trump ordered retaliatory strikes on Iranian air defense and radar sites. Then Iran fired missiles at U.S. bases across the region and vowed to respond again if necessary. We must get out of this no war, no peace state, said Iran's president. I will certainly not surrender.
Iranians have two sources of leverage: their control over the strait and their threats over oil and gas infrastructure.
Trump faces mounting domestic pressure too, with inflation soaring to its highest level in years because of high fuel prices.
You know what I really love? I love the inflation.
Trump argues oil prices will fall once there's a deal and claims the U.S. has helped more than 200 ships and 100 million barrels of oil slip through the Strait of Hormuz since the conflict began.
We've been taking out millions of barrels of oil. Nobody knows it. You know who doesn't know about it? Iran, until right now.
It's now a question of whether all sides can find their way back from the brink. Israel says the war with Iran is far from over, and some Iranian officials say if fighting does resume, it will not be limited to the region. Donna?
Okay, Jackson Prosco, thank you. Ahead in Alberta, country music star trying to get one more question on the referendum ballot. There could be yet another question added to the controversial referendum in Alberta this fall. This time it's about coal mining on the eastern slopes of the Rocky Mountains. Heather Urix-West explains who is behind it and the dilemma it creates for Premier Danielle Smith's government.
Me and the boys, we was playing a show.
A country music crooner calling on Alberta's government to add one more question to the already crowded referendum ballot planned for this fall. Corb Lund leading a group submitting over 200,000 signatures to Elections Alberta for a question about whether the province should ban all future coal and mineral mining activity within Alberta's Rocky Mountain eastern slopes.
It wasn't urban leftists who brought me into this, and I have lots of friends who are urban leftists, no problem with that. But it wasn't. It was cattle producers west of Nanton whose family land was going to be turned into a strip mine and their water was going to be ruined.
Lund and other activists have been involved in this fight for the last 6 years, since a decades-old ban on mining in the area was overturned by the Jason Kenney-led United Conservative government in 2020.
Well, we'll have to wait and see. I mean, it's very important that the people of Alberta have the opportunity to speak about those things that are important to them, and we'll make sure that we go through the proper process and verify the signatures as is necessary.
If Elections Alberta determines the petition was successful at collecting the nearly 178,000 signatures required, it will ultimately be up to either a legislative committee or the Premier herself to determine whether the anti-mining question joins 10 others, including the Alberta separation vote.
There is an economic benefit, potentially, on this one, and it'll be interesting to see if the government takes a position one way or the other on this particular point.
The Coal Association of Canada says Alberta can protect water while producing the steel-making coal industries need, adding that decisions about major industrial development should be guided by independent regulators. The Alberta referendum, with or without a question on coal mining, will take place on October 19th. Heather Urix-West, Global News, Calgary.
Off pitch next, FIFA's problems pile up on the eve of the beautiful game's biggest tournament. The World Cup kicks off tomorrow when Mexico hosts the first couple of matches. The World Cup is the pinnacle of excitement for soccer fans, but there are also lots of negatives about FIFA, from claims it's a world-class ripoff noted for corruption to regimes being welcomed to play, not to mention the sky-high ticket prices. Eric Sorensen reports on the series of challenges the tournament already faces.
In Toronto's FIFA fan zone, spirits are high in the run-up to the World Cup, but many are feeling a distinct lack of enthusiasm, starting with ticket prices from several hundred to thousands of dollars each. Jasdeep Singh planned to attend several games, but says he can't even afford to attend one.
The ticket prices have bumped crazy. So any random ticket is for $3,000.
They're really pricing a lot of real soccer fans out of the community.
Then there's the public money spent by governments. The Parliamentary Budget Office says more than $1 billion.
The state of our city is so bad at this point that we literally should be spending money on anything else.
The ordinary person can't go to it, so it's just, I can't see the benefit at all.
An Angus Reid survey found that about 7 in 10 people in Vancouver and Toronto feel the World Cup is not worth the cost.
People are worried about the expected payoff. Is this the right public spending at the right time, especially given that both provinces are running deficits?
On the eve of the World Cup, FIFA's president hoped he could talk football, but was pressed on FIFA's dynamic ticket pricing. Gianni Infantino says what FIFA earns helps make the World Cup available on free television instead of pay-per-view.
We want to bring the World Cup to every football fan. And this is what this price structure is. This is what dynamic pricing is.
There's also the political environment. 3 host countries, normally strong partners, are engaged in a trade conflict. The U.S. war with Iran has left the Iranian team training in Mexico. And the U.S. has barred a Somali referee from entering the country.
Iran, tickets and visas. Nothing to do with football.
The relationship between FIFA's boss and the U.S. president, including a peace prize for Donald Trump, has left many people cold. Wednesday, Trump said this.
Most successful World Cup they've ever had.
World Cup organizers hope the controversies and distractions will fade away once the competition begins. And if all the seats in all the stadiums are filled, they may be right. The first of 104 World Cup matches kicks off Thursday. Eric Sorensen, Global News, Toronto.
That is Global National for this Wednesday. I'm Donna Friesen. Tonight's Your Canada is Lethbridge, Alberta. Thanks for watching and hope to see you here again tomorrow. Bye-bye.